is that a plain butter croissant, has gone up from £2.20 to £2.60. If you're at the airport, it's even more, because I bought a croissant the other day. It was £3.20.
That's insane.
Welcome to the Sheer Lux Team podcast with me, Charlotte Collins. This week I'm joined by Sherri Andrew Georgina Blaskey. Hi both.
Hello.
Hello.
I feel a bit out of practice. This has been a while for me. It's been a few weeks.
You've been all over
I've
there.
been all over the
world.
shop. I know, I have. I wasn't away for as long as everybody else thought I was away. There were just a few bank holidays breaking it up, so I wasn't in the office for 2 weeks. But I actually only took about 4 holiday days or something. So
good. Maximise those
That's
days.
it worked out
well
very
planned.
well.
Yeah.
It was actually a bit of an accident because it was 2 separate trips, but I know I really made the most of the bank holidays.
So where did you go first?
So I was very lucky. I went on a press trip to the south of France we flew into Nice, but it's kind of more Monaco, so it's to the Maybourne Riviera, which is owned by the Maybourne Group, are the hotel group who own Claridge's, the Connaught and the Berkeley in London. And now they have the Maybourne Beverly Hills and the Maybourne Riviera. And it was just so beautiful. I can't imagine where else in the world would have a better panorama. Like I just can't. It's up super high in the mountains above Monaco, but like not that. It's only a 15-minute drive, but it's just up there, really high. And the vista is just like this expanse of blue. It is so incredible. If you want to go somewhere and just completely flop, but have nice luxury and like nice things, but just stare out at the sea and not have to think about a thing. I can't think of anywhere better, honestly. It was just stunning.
The views look so good, and I did think, I bet that doesn't even do it justice.
How can a shitty iPhone capture? It's just like breathtaking, and they've got, so you kind of, the hotel's built into a cliff edge, so you enter on the 8th floor, and then you can go up to, I can't remember, something like the 12th floor, which is then, they've got a restaurant up there, a Michelin star restaurant, which again, like obviously the higher you go the better the views get, and you can see the whole of Monaco, and you're just like on this cliff above these buildings in Monaco are super high, but you're just staring down at them, and Karl Lagerfeld's house is old house is within right there in front of you, and all the beaches. I mean, it's really just so beautiful. Like if you just want a hotel where you can it's half an hour from the airport, and you can just like do nothing.
Relax,
Heaven.
It's the light down there as well.
Totally.
We're very lucky to have family with houses around there, and the sky is that kind of azure blue. It's called that for a reason, isn't it? And it's just gorgeous.
Yeah.
The light is amazing.
Like so amazing. Those just the blues. If you just want to soak up everything that we don't get in London, big blue sky, big blue sea. That's the place to do it in. So, and I don't know the south of France very well at all, so it was nice to experience it a bit. And then I went to Mexico City with my husband, so the trips really just coincided. One happened to be before the other, and this has been like a bucket list place for me for ages. Because it's such a foodie hotspot, I've wanted to go for so long. There's so much culture to be explored there, but equally you can stay in areas that feel like Shoreditch, and there's great shopping and there's incredible food, whether you want to go really authentic or for sushi, whatever it is you want. And so I absolutely loved it. 2 standout activities were, we did a food market tour.
I love a food tour.
Yeah. This is a company called Eat Like a Local, and they are a female-run group. There are 7 women. They do tours all over Mexico City. You can do different night tours, whatever. We did something like Mexican Food 101, and you basically go to 2 markets. There's a market in the center of Mexico City, which is basically its own city within the city. People kind of are born in the market and are educated there and die. They're a real community. They kind of live by their own laws a little bit. It's like a labyrinth. You go in and you just could never find your way out if you weren't with a professional. I should say they advise you not to go unless you're with a local tour guide, so don't just go kind of on your own volition. But that was also the best way to do it, because she basically took us to all the best stands. We had the most incredible tacos and local things. I've got a new favorite Mexican dish, which is, I'm going to butcher this horribly, but it's called chilaquiles, which is a breakfast dish, and they're basically like mini fried tortilla chips in like a gravy. I'm probably doing this such a disservice with Mexican sour cream and cheese on top. It's just like it's like a pure form of nachos, I suppose. And yeah, we tried all sorts of fun, interesting things. And then we went to the flower market, which is, I mean, just the abundance of beautiful flowers there, and the prices of the flowers are so depressing. Oh my god, you can buy like 1,000 roses for like £100. It's crazy. It's so, anyway, just if you love abundance of flowers, it was really beautiful, and I think you could go there yourself. That's a little tamer.
So did you feel safe? Because I do remember a long time ago, sort of backpacking around that area, and we avoided Mexico City because everything was like, you're sitting in the taxi, they'll come at both sides, they just open the door, grab your passport, and they scoot off again. Oh, God. And it was very much advised not to go there. And it's interesting that you say, obviously, don't go to certain things if you're not with a guide. Is there a bit of an edge?
So we had obviously heard exactly the same thing, and in our experience, it was similar to like Rio and BA, which people also give you similar warnings about, which in the sense that as long as you are really sensible, so we never took our passports out with us. I mean, I'm still not wearing my engagement ring. You know, we took off all our jewellery, didn't wear anything kind of ostentatious, and avoided areas that we were told to avoid. Then we felt 100% safe. 100% safe. Then we that's a cool new way to say it. Then we felt 100% safe at all times. We took Ubers. That's the other piece of advice. Everybody says don't take taxis. You don't know if they're real or not, so take Ubers, which again I thought surprising. You're just getting in strangers' cars, but
makes sense. Yeah,
it's trackable. So I think you just kind of look up the advice, follow the advice, and yeah, we felt safe. We stayed in an area called Roma Norte, which I mean, as I say, is kind of that's the Shoreditch style place, and I mean, so safe. Like, couldn't feel safer. Really felt like walking around any trendy area of any city. And then there's another area called Palazzo, which is, I think it's actually modelled on Beverly Hills, so it's got that kind of LA feel architecturally, and that's where the kind of mainstream hotels are and stuff. So again, that felt super safe. Other areas, people advise you not to wander around by yourself, so you just wouldn't. So I think it's just about being sensible.
Yeah, keep your wits about you.
Yeah, exactly. That's me. Anyway, how are you guys, Sherri? What have you been up to?
Oh, good. I came back from Ibiza last week, which was so fun. And same as you, I took a few days off, but really maximised those 2 bank holidays. And we just had the best time. It felt like we were there for about a month.
How long were you there for?
7 nights, which is quite a while. When I usually go there, I stay for like 2 or 3, 4 nights max, because it's quite an intense place to go if you want to go out and stuff. But we played it very relaxed this time. Lots of lounging on the beach.
Is we friends or we boyfriends?
Just with my boyfriend, yeah. It's just the 2 of us. Because last year we went on a few holidays with friends and other people, and I just wanted us to have like some quality time, just the 2 of us. And the weather was perfect. It was like 24, 25 degrees, so nice. Blue skies. Everyone was just really relaxed. The vibe was, everyone was just like having a lovely time. People were looking amazing. The people watching was great. I was like, oh, I love her bag. I love her outfit. Especially when you go to kind of like a fancy like beach bar, it's so good for people watching. I was like, yeah, it was lovely.
Where did you stay?
So we stayed in a really small boutique, like a family hotel called Casa Munich, which is near the airport. I'd never been there before, and it was such a nice vibe. It was very relaxed. And then we stayed in Santa Eulalia on the other side of the island, which is the more chilled side, in Marcel Apartments, which they're just like serviced apartments, which are great if you just want to like come in, come out, and not spend too much time in the hotel. Just make the most of like the beaches and being out and about. But yeah, they were both really lovely, and it's nice to have a bit of party, bit of chill, which we did.
Did you party?
You know what? Only one night.
Okay.
Yeah. We were like, let's make the most of it. We're going to be out every night. Yeah. Woohoo! We got there. We were like, oh, should we just stay in?
I've been to Ibiza 3 times, and I've never been anywhere near a club in that whole time. No, not once.
But you don't have to.
No, you really. I was really surprised, and I've always been really annoyed when people think Mallorca is just Magaluf. Yeah. And then I felt annoyed with myself when I got to Ibiza and realised that it's the same there. You can really you can opt out. Like you can really opt out. Yeah.
Definitely, and it's really beautiful as well. You don't have to be out and about every day and going out to the clubs.
Any restaurant recommendations?
Any restaurant? We went to El Chiringuito, which is quite a famous
institution.
Exactly. So that was really nice, lovely. We had a lovely lunch there. We also went to the restaurant at Oku, which is really nice, Japanese. It was quite quiet when we went, but I think it was the opening weekend, so things will get busier. But really good Japanese sushi, sashimi, probably the best sashimi I've had in maybe ever, actually. It was really good, very fresh.
Nice.
And we also went to the View at Seven Pines, which is on another side of the island, which is really quiet. It's very secluded, but it's called the View for a reason. The sunset was amazing.
Really?
Yeah, honestly.
That hotel looks like next level. That's probably views to rival the Maybourne, actually.
The views were, I just couldn't get over it. We were staring at the sunset and I was like, is this real?
Yeah.
It was just so beautiful. And we just went for dinner. The food was lovely as well. And if you just want to go for a drink, you can. They have a DJ who plays like on the rocks. And when the sun was setting, he was like playing these kind of like old school Ibiza, like 90s, very like chill, like kind of like chill house.
Nice.
I was like, this is such a nice vibe.
Oh, heaven.
Gorgeous.
So that was the highlight.
I saw in the calendar that we've got an Ibiza
We have
roundup, new hot list coming out.
We've got a hot list.
Are there any, where's top of the hot list that people should know about this year?
Oh, so they are opening the Main in Ibiza.
Are they?
They are.
That's cool.
Which is really cool.
Will that be on the beach? Or
I don't think so. I think it will be near Old Town.
So the Main, for those who don't know,
is a restaurant in Mayfair, and it's very glamorous. You can kind of go and sit outdoors on the terrace and have drinks with your friends. You can go inside. They have live music. You've been having Georgina.
Yeah, I actually went last year for my birthday, and they had suddenly there's like the floor show, and there's live music, singers, and then there's kind of a bit of burlesque style entertainment. All very tasteful and really fun. Yeah.
I do remember Giles Corrin's review was something like, just could have done without the boobs. Like, would enjoy my meal, didn't need the boobs.
So I think it'll be immersive dining, the perfect place if you want to kind of like have dinner, go dancing afterwards, but be in bed by midnight.
Yeah,
which
perfect.
Is perfect for me, to be fair.
Yeah.
And then Experimental have just reopened a hotel in Old Town. So if you want to stay somewhere really cool with lovely interiors, that's in the middle of the Old Towns, you can get to the beach, you can do a bit of shopping. Really cool hotel.
Nice. Can I tell you my favourite place in Ibiza? This is giving... Actually, I was going to say this is giving away like a local secret, but I think it's one of those things that you think is like secret, and actually everybody's like, yeah. There's a restaurant, so it's on the southeast coast, so not far from the Old Town, called the Fish Shack. I think it's called the Fish Shack, and it is kind of what it says on the tin. It is plastic chairs. It is, like a little shacky thing, and they only serve one thing. It's the fish of the day, or I think there's some seafood on that menu as well, and everything comes with potatoes and with veg, and it is just for sunset. I think Ibiza is renowned for its sunsets, isn't it? It is the most heavenly spot, like no frills, no drama, flip-flops, and just incredible sunset and the freshest food. It's so lovely, and it's like one of the few cheap places you can eat in Ibiza as well.
Yeah, because it is expensive.
It's expensive though, yeah. So,
nice. Okay. Yeah. I'm gonna add that to my list.
Where else is on your travel list this summer? Where else are you going?
This summer, Barcelona next month for a festival, and that's kind of it so far.
Okay.
I like to keep, some time free, just because I don't do anything spontaneous anymore. So I'd like the idea of being like, oh, should we just go here for a weekend?
Love that.
But that's it for now.
I have no doubt that your July and August will fill up, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Georgina, how are you? What's been going on?
I'm good. I have not been to Mexico or Ibiza, so I don't have any cool travel stories this week, sadly. But actually, yesterday I did something quite out of character for me. So my friend is over, who lives in Sydney, and doesn't obviously come over very often. And we met in town at 10 o'clock on a Sunday morning. And I just haven't gone into central London. So we went to Cicconi's in Mayfair, had breakfast, and then wandered up Regent Street. And it's just like when everyone's opening up, the sun finally was blazing. And all the Union Jacks are still up and everything. And I just was thinking, I should come to town more for this like early breakfast on a Sunday. What's the point of living in London when you don't then kind of leave your house till 1 o'clock on a Sunday or something? So I feel inspired now to get myself out.
I honestly, any city before as it's waking up is
Yeah.
like my favourite thing, especially when it's warm out, like especially when the weather's lovely.
Yes.
But
So I love when we go down to my parents' house in France, and you go out early before the shops open, and every shopkeeper has their bucket and mop, and they're mopping outside their bit. And there's just this feeling of like a new dawn,
Totally.
a new day, fresh start.
Yeah.
And it's all kind of that feeling of like promise, and it's just a really lovely, like you say, in somewhere hot especially. It wasn't quite like that on Regent Street. People weren't mopping their front steps, but it just felt really nice, and it felt buzzy, and it was good. But so we went there, had breakfast.
Lovely.
And otherwise, I've had quite a chilled couple of weeks.
Have you been watching anything, reading anything?
I have been watching quite a lot actually in my chill out time. So I started this weekend a new series called A Small Light, which is on Disney Plus, and it is about the woman who hid Anne Frank, or helped hide her family. So they were actually hiding in the Second World War because I'm sure everyone knows the story, but they were fleeing from the Nazis, and they're in Amsterdam, and they had a sort of sequence of rooms in an attic above the office that Mr. Frank of his business. So they go up there, and it's his secretary, who's called Meep, who ends up bringing them food and looking after them and making it happen, essentially. And that part is played by Belle Powley, who you might know from the morning show. She is the one who dates the weatherman.
And Everything I Know About Love, she was in as well.
Oh, I haven't seen that. Okay.
The Dolly Alderton adaptation.
Is she in that?
Yeah,
oh,
she's
gosh,
in that.
I still need to see that. Anyway, it's just 4 episodes. I've watched 2. And she's amazing in it. She has these enormous eyes, and she starts off as this quite silly young woman, and you just can't believe what she's about to do. And then you see her adapt and react to the horror going on around them. And it's always that feeling of, well, it's never going to get as bad as this. They won't come to Holland. They won't then take, and then suddenly you see the roundups beginning to happen. But it's very much a domestic drama focusing on her marriage, and then her relationship with the Frank family. So it's more about that than about kind of scenes in camps or anything like that. So it really helps you understand why she would do it, how she felt there was no alternative. And lots of amazing scenes of Amsterdam. So I actually now really want to go back there. It's really beautifully done. It's quite, it's sort of gentle, but without hiding from the horror. So I really recommend it, and I think it's just 4 episodes.
It's such an interesting thing to focus on because it's such an interesting story, because I think so many of us wouldn't do that, right? You'd love to think that you would, but when push comes to shove, it's taking such a crazy risk. So how interesting to look at somebody who actually did that for other people,
Yeah, and there's one point where she takes in. Well, there was one episode, a scene yesterday where I felt really kind of lump in the throat, because my husband's Jewish, and there's I think he's a dentist, not a doctor. He's a dentist, and he's married to a Christian, so he goes into hiding and doesn't tell his wife to protect her.
Wow.
And I was kind of looking at my husband thinking, wow, that would have been us. This is our scenario.
Totally.
And what will happen to her by having been married to a Jewish man? Will they even believe that she knows that he's disappeared, and she doesn't know where he is, but will they believe her?
Yeah.
Anyway, yes, I just thought it's very scary how quickly the world turned.
And it's also
years.
really not that long ago, relatively, and that's why.
No, and that's another thing when they were showing scenes of Amsterdam, the architecture, and I was thinking that's really interesting, because I'd have thought that style of building was post-war, and I'm sure they filmed it right, and they've shot the buildings that are true to the era, and somehow made it feel really quite recent, I suppose.
Have you been to her house? Have you been to Anne Frank's house?
No.
It's really worth doing.
In Amsterdam?
Yeah, in Amsterdam. It's the problem with it is you sort of walk through incredibly slowly with 10,000 other tourists, don't you? So it's a bit of a it's quite hard to gauge because it's so filled with so many people, but it's so small. That's the biggest takeaway. And there's so many of, full family of 4 trapped out there for how many years was it?
Well,
got there
I don't
yet,
know,
but it's quite
at the moment they're still above the office. So did they move at some point?
No, they're there
because
the
they're
whole
there
time,
with another family.
That's it. Yes, of course.
And then
that's right.
this other dentist.
Yes.
So there's about 9 of them.
That's it. Yes, of course there are. Yeah, it's so worth going to see. Also, sorry, it must be really lump in the throat watching the whole thing, because also how it ends.
Yeah,
it's not going to be a happy ending.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, and her Anne Frank's father. So Anne Frank actually, as a character, doesn't feature hugely. Her father is played by Liv Schreiber.
Okay, so worth a watch.
That's worth a watch. And then I've also started the new Bridgerton.
Oh,
Queen
right,
Charlotte.
Charlotte.
Oh, yes, this is on my list.
Which was advertised all over Mexico City. Very global. Yes. Yeah. That's really
That's
interesting.
really interesting.
Yeah.
Um,
How is it?
well, I mean, it's different. I would say they've taken a real turn.
Okay.
So whereas the first one was kind of, well, the first two, but particularly the first one, it was all about kind of love and the music and the dances and, can you recognise the pop song that the classical, version of is at the ball and all that. This is getting really deep into, so it's Queen Charlotte as we know her from the other Bridgertons, but it's going back to why she, who she is, where she came from, and how come she married King George. And this is King George as in the madness of King George. So it starts very early on in their marriage with you finding out that he's got essentially some kind of psychosis or mental health issue. It's sort of unclear. But it got quite serious. The last episode I watched yesterday was all about the kind of treatment they were giving him. And I mean, it was really well done, but I didn't feel like I was watching Bridgerton.
Oh, right. Okay.
Interesting. I thought it'd be more
Fun.
Yeah, light-hearted.
The first couple are quite fun, and then this got quite heavy. And I was watching it with my daughter who's watched them all, and I was kind of like, well, what do you think? And she was feeling quite disengaged compared to the others.
Okay.
It lost its sort of fun and frivolity. And it's not to say that it wasn't good. It's just really different.
Okay. So worth a watch if you're a diehard Bridgerton fan, perhaps.
Yeah.
Maybe not otherwise.
Maybe once I've finished it, it might all come together
Okay.
and then just be brilliant.
Awesome. Yeah.
There are moments that are brilliant.
Okay.
And the young woman whose name I can't remember, who's playing Queen Charlotte, she's excellent.
Yeah, she's really cool. She keeps coming up on my TikTok.
She's
really
really
fun. Yeah.
Yeah.
Sherri, you've been reading.
I have. I finally bought myself a new Kindle. So this is the time to click, buy those books I've wanted to read. I just finished, and I know you talked about this a few weeks ago, Georgina, Cleopatra and Frankenstein by Coco Mellors, which is the best book I've read probably this year.
Okay, high praise.
Really high praise. It's just a really good story, and I think she deserves all the accolades and the attention that she's getting at the minute.
What's it actually about?
So it's about a young girl called Cleo who's in her early 20s, who is British, but she's living in New York. She has a few friends who are very chaotic. It's lots of drink and drugs every day, and her visa is running out. So she goes to a party on New Year's Eve and she bumps into this man called Frank, hence the Cleopatra and Frankenstein, and they hit it off. And this happens very early on, so it's not really a spoiler, but they get married. And he is 20 years older than her. So she's in like her mid-20s, he's in his mid-40s. And the book is about their relationship, which, as you can imagine, with the age gap, and he is very successful. He has his own, I think it's like an advertising agency. She is kind of like a struggling artist. She doesn't have a job. She's kind of like finding her feet in her, early 20s. She's very young and quite impressionable. And it's about their relationship and how that ends up working out in a city that's very, indulgent. There's lots of parties going on. He has a set of very international friends who I would say are very questionable. Her friends equally questionable. And then throughout it, there's kind of like an underlying theme of mental health. You don't really know what happens, but her mum has died and she had quite severe mental health issues. And you can kind of see those cropping up with Cleo. So I guess the overall story is about how their marriage works or doesn't work, and how they end up together or don't end up. Okay. That's all I say, but really good.
Georgina, you loved it as well.
Yeah, I did. I really, really loved it. I actually thought the first chapter was the best chapter in the book. And not to say that it doesn't, as in it made... So, when you read a book and you're like, okay, it's going to take me a little while to get into, you just... It hits you like a brilliant opening scene in a movie. You are so invested in the characters. The conversation they have at that party when they're leaving, coming down in the lift and they walk down to the shop. It's so funny and pacey, and it's like
very quick.
The one-liners, and you can see them kind of... They have this really instant connection. And you just, I think it does that thing where you are rooting for them straight away. Well, I was, because I just felt so excited by the way they were talking to each other. And then, obviously, life gets messy. But I think that's where it works so well. She just writes the characters and their dialogue so brilliantly.
Yeah.
What did you think of Eleanor?
Eleanor, she's a character that comes in about halfway, and it's a completely different. It switches from like third person to first person. I thought she was great.
So the writing changes quite dramatically. So it's a sort of a sort of typically written novel, isn't it? Like the chapters are a certain length and paragraphs and whatever. And then this character Eleanor comes in, and it's like one-liners, almost as if someone's on stage telling a joke. It's
so it's
and
like
it's
two
like her
sides of-
observations. Yeah, and it just the whole book changes. It's like you're reading a different book, really.
Yeah.
And
but
then
it's like so cleverly done.
Okay.
I was reading it being like, I wish I could write something as good as this.
Really?
It's one of those books where
and
the language is
long.
Oh, honestly, Charlotte, you would.
That's next.
Yeah,
Okay.
I know you're not a fan of like the crappy books that everyone hypes about. This is
I'm
so
so sick of
worth it.
people hyping crappy books. Honestly, Curtis Sittenfeld romantic comedy. Why is it's rubbish? It's just rubbish. Have you read it?
No, I haven't. But it was on my list. Maybe not now.
yeah, Heather read
Heather
it.
really enjoyed it, but I feel like Heather reads a lot, so she can afford to like have maybe one that's just a bit more fun. Whereas like I don't have time for that because I don't read very often. So I need to, I like it needs to be cut to the chase. It needs to be really good. And it's just my mum has an 100-page rule, and I'm I don't know, I'm 130 or something, and it's just crap. Like it's just chick lit, but it's being hailed as like a book everybody should be reading and this brilliant new book, and I don't know, it was really disappointing. So Cleopatra and Frankenstein it is instead.
I think you'll really enjoy it.
I'll report back. Thank
Yeah, so the middle
Really
bit with
good.
Eleanor reminded me of the female voice in Lessons in Chemistry. So if you liked
loved
that
that. I
character,
loved that book.
then do you know what I mean? That it was that kind of tone and observation and
I haven't read that
humor.
one, but I imagine
wow,
that's
Sherri,
what
that's
it's.
so
So
good.
so it's a bit of I felt like that was coming
Okay.
in, so it's quite fun.
Okay, love that.
So good.
Nice. Anything else for me?
Anything else? I'm getting through Taylor Jenkins Reid. Is that her name?
Yeah.
Her books. So I've read Carrie Soto is Back, Malibu Rising.
I just finished that. We were reading it at the same time.
Oh,
coincidentally.
reading. We're very on the
in
same
tune,
page here. Quite literally.
People love Malibu Rising, I feel.
So good. I thought.
It got
it's
better.
not- yeah.
Because at first we were talking about it in the office and we were like, yeah, like it's light, fluffy, easy, whatever. And then
Exactly.
suddenly I felt it got deeper and it got better.
Yeah.
It's not her best.
What's her best? You love Daisy Jones.
Yeah, but I think Seven Husbands of
Yeah.
Even
Oh,
Hebrew.
fair,
It's just
yeah.
the most original and interesting to me.
That
the
was really good.
characters, yeah.
Have you read that
I
one?
haven't read that. No. I'm
really
getting through them. That's next.
Although someone said to me the other day, no, I think Carrie Soto is the best. So.
Oh really? I did like that, but it's a book about a tennis star, and I mean, I'm quite into tennis. However, I feel like to read this book, you have to really be into tennis.
Okay.
There's so much of it that is quite jargony, and it's like reading about like a Serena Williams, like from like the 70s.
Okay,
So it's quite niche, but still worth a read.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just one thing to recommend for me. I watched on the way to Mexico. Actually, I watched Tar,
Oh,
yeah.
which is the film that Kate Blanchett was nominated for everything for. I mean, the film itself was nominated for a lot of awards in this year's awards season. She plays a conductor, a maestro called Lydia Tarr, who has achieved so much greatness. You know, she's won an Oscar, she's won a Tony, she's won a Grammy. She's this kind of legendary maestro, which naturally comes with all the kind of self-involvement and egomania that you might expect. The film itself, it was like a mild black swan. That's kind of how I would describe it. There's a little bit of supernaturalness in it, which I think was kind of not ignored, but so much of the focus of the commentary around the film was critique of there was a lot of criticism from within the conducting community that this was a kind of unfair representation. There was one conductor in particular who supposedly is kind of the character is modelled on, and she's quite an unlikable character. So this conductor was pretty outspoken about it. But yeah, the supernatural element is really interesting. It's quite dark. You're sort of always waiting for the bad thing to happen. There's a kind of backstory going on with a former pupil who has been stalking her a little bit, and that kind of takes a dark turn. But it's not a horror film it's really just a kind of interesting look at somebody's life, and really they're unraveling at quite a pivotal moment in their career. So all of that is super interesting. Her performance is incredible, and the thing that I loved about it is just aesthetically stunning. It's set in Berlin, so the architecture is incredible. She is this kind of shit hot, super, real masculine energy. In the opening sequence, you see her go and have bespoke suits made. She's got this incredible presence, and from her interiors to the way she dresses to, I mean, pretty much everything is just beautiful. It's all very dark and kind of grey and, you know, in a moody way, but just incredibly visually inspiring. So I really loved it. I really recommend it. A really kind of meaty watch without being, you know, I don't like anything too depressing and bleak. So it was that.
Nice. For the longest time, I thought it was based on a real person, but it's not, is it?
So it is supposedly based on this person, but not not kind of like Lydia Tarr was not a real person.
Oh, I see. Okay.
And they have, I don't think the filmmakers have said XYZ was our inspiration. I just think there are a lot of parallels with this real conductor's life and the one they constructed here. So yeah, that's it. Anyway, it's pretty worth a watch. See, Sherri, you brought along something to talk about.
I did. This really resonated with me. This is from the Telegraph a few days ago. It's a comment piece by Tom Haynes, which says, "How I fell out of love with Pret. The coffee chain subscription model is pointless. No one needs 5 Americanos a day." So when the Pret subscription came out, I think it was in that weird like lockdown, not lockdown. It was £25, and that gave you 5 coffees and other drink smoothies a day, blah blah blah. And now it's going
£25 a month.
A month, yeah.
And you could get 5 drinks a day.
A day, yeah. Which is a lot. So I think he calculated if you got one a day, you would save about £47.60 a month, which is quite good. So now it's going up to £30 a month, and you get a 10p discount on food items, which
in addition to the coffees.
Yeah.
Or
so
drinks.
The coffees are the same, it's going up, but the gripe with this, well, his main gripe in this piece is that a croissant, a plain butter croissant, has gone up from £2.20 to £2.60. And I think
so they just upped their prices and given everyone 10p off.
Exactly. So it doesn't make any difference. And if you're at the airport, it's even more. Because I bought a croissant the other day. It was £3.20.
That's insane.
Price is so expensive. The other day, I bought a kombucha and a sandwich, and it was like £7.50, and I almost like balked at the price. £7.50 for and this is the crux of it. A bang average lunch.
This is it. Yeah.
I haven't bought anything in Pret for such a long time, and I mean kind of post-pandemic long time, because the last time I used to like those boxes they do, and it would be a kind of tuna niçoise or a chicken with something really yummy, and they're about £6-7 and I know that there's inflation and you know, prices of ingredients have gone up, but you just can't do that for lunch.
No, it's really unsustainable. And by the time you need some chocolate rice crackers and a drink as well, it's over £10 for
£15.
You know, when you think and when you
to
think
sit at your desk
and eat a really average salad.
But it used to feel like a real treat. Like in my previous job, our office was right next to a Pret. And we'd be like, "Oh, should we go to Pret today?" It felt like not an outing, but like it was such a treat to get like a Pret lunch. You'd spend like £8. It'd be like, "Oh, treating myself."
You get a lot for £8.
Whereas
like 3 courses.
But I also feel like there are so many more options. Like Pret's an OG high street lunch spot, and now there are just so many more options. So somewhere that was exciting at the beginning of our careers, perhaps less so now. What's your go-to if you do go to Pret? What do you get?
I like the falafel salad.
Oh yeah.
Or just a chicken salad sandwich. So quite simple. Nothing on the menu really like. I don't have a go-to anymore, really.
No, they used to do, well, I've got a real sadness because they had a satay chicken wrap, which used to be my absolute favourite thing. Then they got rid of it, I'm guessing because they got into a lot of nut allergy trouble. So fair enough, that went. And then they replaced it with a sriracha chicken wrap, which is like decent. It's just not as, I miss the satay. Like I'm happy for the allergic people that they don't have it anymore, but I do miss it. And then so the sriracha does still exist, but in our Clapham Common one, it does not. And instead, it's a pesto chicken one. And that's just rubbish.
Yeah,
that's just a bit.
So that was my go-to, but no longer. Yeah. They did do a very good cheese toasty, though, I have to say. Like a really cheesy
Actually, and in winter, some of their soups are really nice.
Yeah, I like the mushroom risotto soup.
Yeah, it's like that is a meal.
That is a meal.
True.
You know,
I was going to say, if you're abroad and you don't know what to get, you see a Pret, it's like, oh, okay, that's an easy
safe,
win.
Safe territory.
Bet, exactly.
Oh, I wouldn't get a Pret abroad. That's depressing.
Oh, no, but like if you're at an airport and you need something,
yeah, that's fair. I also really like all their Pret bars.
Yeah, the Love Bar.
Yeah, the Love Bar.
Oh my god,
that's
so
good. Popcorn bar.
I just feel a bit sick halfway through though.
I love that. And actually, sorry, I sat here bashing Pret, and then I'm thinking of all the things I love at Pret.
Love.
But also, they do those really good almond butter chocolate. Have you ever had those? They're like 2 little squares of chocolate, and they're filled with almond butter, and it's just like a little protein snack on the go, and that's
nice.
really good too.
Yeah, if you got about £4.
Yeah, and also the
this
coffee.
is it. Yeah,
but also the coffee is rank. There's so many better places for coffee.
And that's what he says in this piece as well. The coffee is not great. It's very weak.
Very weak.
And the filter coffee used to be 99p. It's now about £2 something. I know.
Crazy.
Price of filter coffee these days. Where do you get your coffee from? Where do you like?
So in Clapham Common, there's a really nice place called Lane 8, just outside the station. Flat white, the best.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I don't really buy coffee out and about.
You don't?
No.
Are you a coffee drinker?
I am, but I have my little it's sort of, what's it called, cafetiere for one at my desk. Plunge that, sit there in the morning. I can't remember last time I bought a coffee.
Where do you?
Because it's just the prices are too high.
Yeah, it's crazy, especially if you've got a cafetiere, and if you drink black coffee.
Well, I
then you're
drink white
paying-
coffee,
yeah,
but I also
still.
I'm not a frothy milk person, so I would have a splash of cold milk, whatever it is, oat or regular. I'm not that fussy about the milk. In a normal coffee.
Fine.
So if you're into lattes, where it is the milk is like the big part
You
of
need
your
the
coffee,
barista.
you need that.
Yeah.
But that's not my coffee taste.
Yeah, that's
so-
true. I drink black coffee, so I've got even less reason to have to go and buy one. But it's just.
Oh, but then don't you like it when they put a little bit of crema on the top from, when, not because it's milk, but
Yeah.
that lovely kind of
that frothy
swirly
thing.
brown bit that is just coffee.
Well, I tend not to notice it because there's a lid on it,
Oh,
so I
yeah,
wouldn't
but
see
I think
it.
that gives it a smoothness if you are having
Yeah,
a black
maybe.
coffee.
I tend to just
But
have
yeah,
a-
if you can't
Yeah.
see it, I
You
just
can't
go.
see it, no.
You can come and borrow my.
I might. Do
cafetiere.
you know what? There was a time when I did have a cafetiere.
You did
cafetiere
in the old office. You
I
did.
did. Yeah. Where do you get your coffee from for your cafetiere?
Yeah, I just get it when I do my supermarket shop. I bring it into work, and then
Yeah, must be better for that.
Do you have any go-to brands?
I've been buying assembly coffee, so I've got a coffee machine at home, and I've got a bean to cup. Is that what you call it? Machine at home.
Oh, yeah.
And I buy the assembly because I only drink decaf as well. So assembly beans I really rate, and actually I noticed they're selling them in over under as well. So
Oh,
when I
nice.
next have when you run out of coffee, maybe not because you don't drink beans, but it is the worst when you get to the end and you're like, shit, that's it, that's my free coffee gone for until
Damn.
the next one comes. Anyway, so yeah, assembly I really rate it if you want good coffee that's also decaf, but they do calf too. Georgina, what did you bring along?
I brought in a story that was in the FT on Saturday, and it's about Ruth Wilson, the actress, who I'm a big fan of. When I saw her in The Affair with Dominic West, I mean, I just thought I'd never seen her in anything before.
God, how good was that show?
That was it. You know those ones that you remember like that,
Yeah.
and you just think that was properly, beautifully written, beautifully acted, shot, the locations, everything. It was just perfect.
It was a classy TV show, wasn't it?
Yeah, and even though the last series was a bit weird,
I think I gave up at a point.
yeah.
But that first
Actually,
season was flawless.
interestingly, in this interview, she does describe the affair amid what was later described in a press article as a toxic environment.
Oh,
no.
Yeah.
interesting.
Anyway, she's not talking about the affair. What she is doing is a show at the Young Vic, where she is going to be on stage from the 19th of May at 4 p.m. non-stop until the 20th of May at 4 p.m. And in this show, where she will not sleep, she is going to do the same scene 100 times in 24 hours. And every time she does that scene, which is based on a pivotal moment in the relationship between a couple who are a man and a woman, every time she redoes that scene, a different person will be coming on to play the man who she has never met and not rehearsed with.
And they're these men
That's
actors.
so wild.
The theatre did a kind of call out to people. So presumably they've auditioned or there's been some kind of screening. But they, I think, are allowed to kind of interpret the scene and bring to it what they will. So I guess some people will deliver it, obviously, with kind of a more aggressive energy, perhaps, than others. And she has to kind of, the script stays the same, but obviously how she will be, how they'll move around the stage and everything like that is anyone's guess. I think it is sold out. However, if you are willing to queue, there's a kind of one in, one out. So when someone from the audience who's got their pre-sold seat leaves, you can go in and take their seat. So she gets, I think they said she gets a 15-minute break every 2 hours.
Okay.
So I think she's planned her snacks and her drinks and, all of that stuff. But it sounds extraordinary.
And what does she say is her motivation for doing this?
So she says the prospect is exhilarating and terrifying. And for me, that's quite scary, but also really liberating. So I think what I took away from this is that she's an accomplished actress. She has done the most incredible amount of work recently, even things like His Dark Materials and all this. She did that one, Mrs. Wilson, which was based on a distant relative of hers.
Yes.
And I just think how interesting to push yourself that far out your comfort zone and do something like this. And there's nowhere to hide. You're on the stage and you don't know who you're going to get and what's going to happen and all those factors coming in. And what made me laugh was I was driving this morning and on the radio, they were talking about this woman who's 99 years old and had lived her lifelong dream, which was to be at the circus and have someone throw knives around her. And she's 99. And they asked her why she wanted to do it. And she said because she wanted to feel alive. And I just thought there's two such different women who are obviously at different stages in their lives and have chosen to kind of, because it's when you do something and push yourself to your edge that you kind of really feel like you're living. So yeah, it just kind of got me thinking really about how easy it is to fall into our comfort zones, and we should all sort of push ourselves out of our, safety net sometimes.
Do you ever do anything? Like, how often do you check that in yourself, that, I should do X because I'm scared of it?
Ooh.
Well, I think the first time I went from being a magazine journalist to having a message from Georgie, this is probably 7 years ago, saying, do you want to come on our Instagram live podcast, when we used to do it from the sofa?
Oh God,
live.
Wow. Live on Facebook.
That for me was a massive professional out my comfort zone, because I'd always just kind of worked hiding behind a screen with my name in print and no one knew anything.
But you're so good at it.
Oh, well, thanks. But that's the sort of I remember feeling terrified.
Really?
Yeah.
Oh, 100% terrified, because it was just so out my comfort zone.
And that was quite an intimidating way of doing it as well.
Yeah, when everyone in the office was told to be quiet.
We used to film this. This is like before. I mean, Instagram was like barely a thing. It was Facebook Live we used to do, and we used to. Do you remember in the old office where the sofa was upstairs? So 4 people or so, on the editorial team, we go live every single day at 12 o'clock. So everybody else in the office just had to shut up. And we'd put the phones on silent and shut the door. And we would just go live a bit like this. We'd talk about a topic for 10 minutes every day on Facebook Live. But yeah, it was really live every day at 12 o'clock.
Oh, wow.
What a weird time. Oh well, it got us where that was the beginning of broadcasting at Sheer Luxe.
Yeah,
so,
it was.
Yeah, it's evolved a little bit since then.
Yeah,
that is quite nerve-wracking.
But that's been a while, Georgina. You need to do something else now.
Well, yeah, maybe.
Trying to throw yourself off a cliff again. Yeah. Sherri, what about you? Do you actively seek out things out of your comfort zone?
Not really, because I don't. It's more of an effort to do that kind of thing, and sometimes just getting through it every day. And yeah, exactly. That's an accomplishment in itself. Maybe things of like on holiday, I might jump into the sea from like a dive board. That's about as far as it goes.
Okay.
I'm like, wow.
Yeah,
me. Exactly, that kind of thing.
I think it is easier, like in your personal life sometimes, to sort of, the reason why people enter marathons.
Yes, exactly.
That kind of thing is that pushing yourself to your edge. It doesn't, obviously, professionally, it can be harder to achieve. Yeah. Slightly different for actresses.
I do try though. I have a thing where if I can't think how often this comes up, but when I'm at like a talk or something, basically when I when somebody says, does anyone have a question? And if I think of a question and then I go, no, it's too scary, I make myself do it. So if anything in life like that I find that I think is scary and my instinct is to run, I do actually then make myself do it. But not anything like abstract or physically challenging like a marathon. But like if I hear that little voice of, oh no, I'm scared, and I'm like, no, you must.
Yeah,
that's really good. And then you get more confident as you do
I
that
think
more.
it's just really important.
Even it can be things like going to an event on your own for the first time, the second time, or even doing it when you're in a new job or a different role, or maybe you've moved from one team to another, or whatever it is. I mean, obviously this is quite an extreme case, but there can be small things that can feel really significant to you. But I think that is such a great example. I remember like interviewing someone quite famous on the phone, and it was only on the phone, but like I'd never interviewed someone at that level, and I just had like the sweaty palms and my heart was racing, and it would have been so easy for me to say, oh, can I email the questions? But I was like, no, I want to speak to this person. I actually really want to have this conversation, even though it feels slightly terrifying.
I remember the first time I did radio, I did Joe Good's show when Karl Lagerfeld died, and I remember being so scared. I can still remember Joe Good always brings you on after a song has played, and I can remember it was Sam Smith. I can't remember which song, but I would just, when the song comes on, I'm always like, oh, that was the Karl Lagerfeld song. I remember sat there waiting to speak, like, oh my god, this is so scary. But it's also funny how the things that start off as so scary if you do them a few times,
you're
stop
like,
being
oh,
so
what was I scared
down
about?
hand. Exactly. So that's why it's important to do them, isn't it?
Yeah.
Definitely.
Thanks, Regina. Right, let's answer some questions quickly. I've got a list here of questions that have come up on the SheerLuxe community over the last week. There's some really nice ones here. Somebody has asked about dinner party starters. What do you recommend for an easy go-to dinner party starter? Sherri?
Easy. I think I replied to this one actually. And I
think
said,
you did, yeah.
I said a roasted cauliflower.
Nice.
It just looks really impressive on a plate. It's so easy to do, and you can just kind of like chuck things on, like a bit of tahini, some pomegranate, some yogurt, whatever you want to put on for a simple veggie starter. And it feels quite substantial, even though it's vegetarian.
Real crowd pleaser.
Yeah.
Georgina?
I don't do starters. I do the kind of like sharing plate nibble things when everyone's having drinks. So I do things like I love old school Mary Rose sauce. So I would do prawns in a little Mary Rose sauce in an ice, little gem lettuce, thing.
Like a little scoop.
Yeah. So that, or something like you can buy in the supermarket. I think I've said it on here before, the Crustard things.
I buy
love those.
I mean,
now.
I do. Yeah. I've got you to thank.
So I would have a whole load of that stuff kind of going along down
Nice.
the table.
Nice.
I think.
Yummy.
Yeah, really nice. Okay, somebody else has asked, I'm going on a long haul flight next week and looking for any skincare tips or what you should be using to keep your skin looking hydrated. Any flying hydration tips?
I would never put makeup on before a long haul flight, first of all.
Definitely. And do a sheet mask, perhaps, if you
Yes.
can. Hydration one.
Nice
And always
little
have a
spray spritzer.
Oh
face
yeah, a
spritz.
spritz, and always have some SPF when you land, because that heat does hit you.
Yeah.
Can I tell you, I also saw a air hostess on TikTok saying that the UV rays when you're in an aeroplane, when you're on an aeroplane, are like the highest of anywhere in the world. You know, when like you're sitting in an aeroplane
Really?
and the sun comes on your face and you're like, oh, this is lovely. You're like extra exposed to UV, so actually you should wear sunscreen on the plane as well.
That
It's
makes sense because
fascinating.
you're
Makes
so,
so
much
much
higher.
sense, doesn't
Oh my
it?
god, no.
I know. We'll get it verified, but it kind of logically does make sense, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Summer Friday's jet lag mask.
Oh, nice.
The goat. Also, I never drink on long haul flights before
Alcohol.
or after
No.
alcohol.
Yeah.
Shit ton of water and nothing else. I've even actually stopped having like a Diet Coke on a long haul flight.
Just water.
In terms
Do you
of how
eat?
I feel, yeah, I'll eat. But in terms of how I feel when
Oh
I
yeah,
land,
because isn't it
Yeah.
meant to hit you like doubly hard as well?
just think for your face. Give your face a break. You can drink when you're there.
Yeah. Agreed.
Okay, somebody has asked about 30th birthday gift ideas. They have said, I'm 30 soon and my parents, grandparents and sister are all asking for present ideas. Trouble is I have no idea what to ask for. Has anyone got any great gift ideas from landmark birthdays that they can share for inspiration?
I think I might have replied to this one that to go away, get a voucher to go away somewhere. Lots of holiday companies you can buy vouchers.
Yeah,
you can obviously
Mr.
buy
and Mrs.
airline
Smith.
vouchers.
Mr. and Mrs. Smith vouchers I think is such a good gift.
If I received that, I'd be
Thrilled.
I'd
Yeah,
be
Because
absolutely
that's
thrilled.
global, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah, perfect. So I would, if you really feel like you're kind of searching for something, then I think go experience.
Yeah.
Yeah, I so agree.
Restaurant vouchers.
Yeah.
Yes. God,
We've just got a whole glut of kind of 40th and 50th even coming, and loads of like friends grouping together buying vouchers, and it's brilliant because then people don't go for like 6 months and they suddenly go, oh yeah, we're going out for dinner and I've forgotten about that.
And actually, I've done that. My
really
dad
nice.
is obviously very hard to buy for because he's a 60-something-year-old man who doesn't want anything. And the last two, whatever they have been, Christmas and Father's Day or something, I've bought. He's got Gymkhana vouchers waiting for him and Dishoom vouchers waiting for him, and
So
such
nice.
an easy win for a dad as well. I
Yeah.
would really recommend that.
Yeah.
Okay, and finally, somebody has asked, keen to know your top considerations when buying or even renting a first home. Location obviously a must, but proximity to train station, garden, lots of natural light. Thank you so much. I think this is quite personal.
That is.
What's your priority when looking for a rental?
I would say, well, having had lots of bad neighbours, I would say neighbours, although that's really hard because you don't really know where you're going to look somewhere. But for example, if you're in a flat, do you want to be in the middle? So you have people up above you and beneath you. Do you want to be at the top? Is there outside space? Is it south facing? Going to get any sun? I mean, I guess these are quite obvious ones as well.
I think the neighbours one is so important, and actually we have said we did like shockingly little research on where our house, or, you know, like in terms of those. I think if I were to buy again, I'd just do a stakeout and just sit outside somewhere all night. Things like quietness at night and stuff. You need to know that before you put all your money into a property.
Yeah,
I think.
definitely.
Georgina?
Well, I think obviously the practicals like location, transport links and all that stuff, which is sort of a given. I think, when we look around the house that we're in now, the first thing I asked was, what are the neighbours like?
Mm-hmm.
Is anyone having parties at 2 a.m? Actually, it's ended up being probably my daughter, but you know, that kind of thing. Who lives next door? You know,
totally.
stuff like that. But it is funny though, because we only moved a couple of roads away, but we didn't hear planes in our old house, and now we do.
Oh, how weird.
Oh.
And it's so, I think, just like, don't get swept up in the bricks and mortar. Also look around you and just be like, is there a bus route, you know,
hurtling down the...
and are there planes? And in the summer, I am beginning to think now, when we open the windows, when it gets hot at night, are we going to be woken up at 4:30 every morning?
And will you feel safe there in the dead of winter when it gets dark at 4 p.m?
Yeah, what is it? Is it, are there lights on the street when you're walking back at night? Things like that. Yeah.
Very sensible.
Very sensible Sally's over here. All right. Thank you both so much. Thank you for listening. If you have any feedback at all, please do email podcast@sheerluxe.com. We love hearing from you. You can check out the community at community.sheerluxe.com as well. Ask us any questions or feel free to give us your responses too. Don't forget to rate, review, subscribe and tell your friends, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.